In addition to if and else, there's one more conditional that we have. It's called else if, and it's really incredibly useful, and you'll be glad that we have it when you learn what it does. So let's go ahead and make a copy of conditionals.pl and call it elseif.pl. And elseif is spelled like that without the second E. It's ELSIF.pl. And we'll go ahead and open that. We're going to forego the constants that we've done in some of the other lessons because I think you understand that at this point. And we'll just go ahead and say if 1, and we know that 1 is true, so we'll say message, this is true, and else, message, this is not true. And we'll go ahead and save that and run that, and you'll see that, of course, the 1 is true, and if we were to put a 0 in here and save and run, that is not true. Now, what if you wanted to have another conditional in there? What if you wanted a third choice? You can say else if 1 and message, but this one is true. And when we run that, that's what we get. We get that third one. And so these are all mutually exclusive, which means that you're only going to get one of these. And in fact, you could have as many else ifs as you want to. If I can just copy this and paste it. It'll always select the first one that's true, and it won't bother to run anything else. So if this one were false, well, let's make one of these different than the others. And so we'll go ahead and make this one false. And now you're going to get this second one, which doesn't look any different, but this one is true. But if you make this one false, now you'll get this one here. This one is different than the others. So this will always select the first one that's true. And of course, if none of them turn out to be true, then you get the else at the bottom. This is not true. So else if is great for selecting among a number of different conditions. And just to show you a working example of this, go in your exercise files folder to a folder called random quote, and in there we have a script. And this script is called random quote. We'll open that. And let's just run that real quick so you can see what it does. What it does is it gives you a random quote out of a quote file. And this one is Sid Caesar. And the quote file is here, quotes.txt, and you can see that in here is a bunch of quotes from different people. Some of them are silly, some of them are meaningful. And the way that this works is, in a nutshell, it reads through this quotes file, and every time it sees a token surrounded in dollar signs like that, it looks at what that token is and it decides what to do based on that token. If the token says quote, then it starts a new structure to store a whole quote and byline. If the token says byline, it stores the byline in that structure. If it is just the text, it'll store the text in the structure based on the token that is read before. So it'll read a token. If it's a quote token, it'll start a new structure. Reads a line, it puts it into the space for that token, so it's either the quote or the byline. And it does all of this with a if else if. And so there's a loop here, this while loop for getting the line of text, and we'll cover loops in another chapter. But here is the if, else if, and else. And so it's getting the token, it's checking if it has a token, and it's doing its default, which in this case is to give an error message if there wasn't a token, but it's got some blank text line and it doesn't know where to put it. So that's an example of if, else if, and else in a real world script. We'll go ahead and run it again, get a different quote. Every time we run it, we get a different quote. And we'll look at this script throughout the course, and we'll be looking at different aspects of it as we learn different parts of the Perl language. So don't expect to understand the whole thing at this point. I'm just showing you that this is the sort of a thing that you can use if, else if, and else for.